Hello, hello.
Hello.
I think we have Marty with us now. Do we, Marty?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So,
Uh-oh.
knows.
These guys catch me still chewing on my banana.
You can't take Marty anywhere.
I could have been holding it. That would have looked pretty ridiculous.
Well,
I better get the banana peel off the floor so I don't slip on it.
So last week, I read you chapter 5. Can anybody tell me what happened in chapter 6 and 7 while I was away?
Kristen, you want to speak up nice and loud?
Yeah. What happened was that they found out about the shoes that got buried, and Reddy got in trouble, and then Mr. and I came back, and she found out that kids would bully Reddy at school, and then they talked about trading land, so we went through it again, and Reddy so she could stand up for her, and that's where we pretty much got.
Excellent. So they figured it out that Lance was the one that did it, huh?
Yep.
How did they figure that out? What happened?
I have something else.
Oh, okay. How did they figure that out, that he's the one that did it? Lord?
Because he felt bad for Rennie, so he showed Marshall and Rennie and dug up on the shoes.
Right. Anybody got anything else to add to that?
Alyssa, you want to say something?
Good.
Mr. and I had training and Lance and Rennie were in it, and Marshall and you were in it, and Marshall.
Right. So was Rennie being punished before they figured out what happened?
Yeah.
What did she have to do? You remember what she had to do?
Hunter, she had to clean the dog's poop.
Right.
She had to pick the dog's poop up.
Right. She was being punished, so she had to go around the yard and pick up the dog poop. So did Lance feel guilty? You think Lance felt bad? Yeah. Do you think that Lance was a bad dog? Why or why not?
Okay, can you give a reason why or why not?
I think he wasn't trying to be a bad dog because he's just connected to his owners very much and he just wanted to help.
He just wanted to help. That's a great response. So,
But she also said, Ms. Knight, she also said something I think that was really very interesting. She said that he feels very connected to his owners. And do you think that he and Rennie have developed a special relationship with each other?
Yes.
What do you think is the best example, or when do you think it started? Raise your hand, no.
when did the special relationship start between Rennie and Lance?
When do you think they had a special relationship where they really got connected?
Monica?
Then they got Lance to the house.
And what happened when they tried to introduce Rennie to Lance? They were in the house, that's right, yeah.
Rennie saw Lance and then they were staring at each other and Lance licked Rennie's nose.
Right. They made a connection when they licked each other's noses, right? Maybe not the best way to shake hands, but okay.
Does anybody know, just let me ask one more question, and then I promise I'll stop.
No?
Does anybody know anything about Eskimo customs? Eskimos. Who Eskimos are and about their customs?
Did you hear that?
Nope.
He said Eskimos are people that live near the Arctic.
Right.
Yep. They live in a very, very, very cold place.
And one of the way, I mean, so if we shake hands sometimes when we're meeting people and saying hi and goodbye, what is one of the things that Eskimos do as a way to greet each other and to say goodbye? Does anybody know?
Yes, they rub noses in each other.
Ah, there you go. They rub noses.
Noses. So maybe Lance and Rennie were practicing Eskimo. Okay, but the thing that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood is sometimes people do bad or things that aren't quite good because they want to help, right? So Lance was really wanting to help, but he didn't do the best thing to help. Does that make sense? Okay, have you ever been misunderstood? Like you thought you were doing something good, but it turned out to be not so good? You know what I did once? I was only 4 and my sister was 3, and her hair, I decided her hair was too long. I cut it all off. I was trying to help her look better, but she didn't look better, and she cried, and my mom got upset, but I was really trying to help, so that's a similar kind of thing. Anybody else have something like that happen to them?
Did you have an example of being misunderstood?
It was like my brothers, they were misunderstood because they like cutting each other's hair bald spots so they look bald.
And your mom and dad didn't like that, huh? It happens. Okay, so what was the solution at the end of chapter 7? What were they going to do with Lance? Were they going to punish him? What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Lena?
They were going to, because Miss Janaya was going to make this little group thing to help train the dogs, and they were going to train him not to wear the shoes anymore.
Right, exactly. So they're going to send Lance to class, right? So let's go to chapter 8 and find out about the class. It's called In Training. Are we ready to read? Everybody stretch. Yawn. Okay, everybody in chapter 8, I'm going to start now. Chapter 8, In Training. School began the very next week, but there was a problem. No one had given any thought to what I would do while everyone was in school and Mom was at work. As a result, I spent the first day locked in the garage, chewing on cardboard boxes and howling my heart out. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh, oh. I sobbed as loud as I could. The sound of my voice echoed in the empty garage and made me feel even more alone. The other dogs in the neighborhood heard. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
Barked the shepherd next door. Alone, alone, alone. I replied, feeling very sad. We hear you, we hear you, we hear you.
We hear you, we hear you, we hear you.
Yapped a pair of Scotties across the street. Awful, awful, awful.
Awful, awful, awful.
Beeped the bloodhound on the corner. It wasn't long before most of the dogs in the neighborhood were participating in my pity party. This made all their people very cranky. By the time Marshall, Sandra, and Rennie got home from school, there were notes on the door and messages on the answering machine. As soon as he listened to the messages, Marshall came to see me. Lance, he scolded. You can't bark all day or Mom will have a fit. I hung my head, but I couldn't promise not to bark. My day in the garage had been almost as bad as being tied to a tree. I'm going to call Miss Janiyah, Marshall said. The next day, instead of being locked in the garage, Marshall dropped me off at Miss Janiyah's house on his way to school. And just like that, I went from being in the doghouse to being Miss Janiyah's star pupil. What are you going to do with him, Miss Janiyah? Marshall asked. Put him to work, she said. I think he'll make a great therapy dog. Therapy dog, Lance? Said Marshall, sounding surprised. Sure, he can visit hospitals and retirement homes and help me train other dogs. After that, we settled into a routine. Marshall would drop me off at Miss Janiyah's before school, then pick me up after class. I spent my days learning to sit, stay, heel, fetch, come, drop it, and lie down. I also had to learn how to do funny things like turn on switches, push buttons with my nose, pick up and return things people dropped. Why do you think he'd need to learn those things?
To help people.
Yeah, because if he's going to be a therapy dog, he needs to be able to help people. Right. On Wednesdays, Marshall brought Rennie with him for the...
Was there a question one of the kids asked?
Sorry.
Somebody asked what a therapy dog was?
Did someone want to know what a therapy dog was, or does somebody know what a therapy dog is?
That's a great question.
Dylan, do you know what a therapy dog is? No. Okay. You know what a therapy dog is?
It's a dog who goes around to nursing homes and hospitals and helps some people who can't help themselves.
That's, okay. Let me ask you this. Is there more than one kind of therapy dog?
Yes.
Give me some exampple.
Well, she
What's
just
the kind of
gave a
therapy
very
dog?
good one.
Well, one, she just said we go to nursing homes and visit with older people who need company. What else?
Some of them help the blind people walk.
Yes, they're guide dogs. A guide dog is a therapy dog. Do you know anything about soldiers coming back from the war? Do you know about those therapy dogs?
What do they do?
A little bit louder, Ella.
They help them if they get hurt.
Can I help them if they're hurt?
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, 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 yes. Both their bodies and their feelings, right? Can anybody think of another one? I know a really good one. It's really interesting, but I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Alexa.
2 dogs say he helped 50 soldiers.
Couldn't hear, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
They said dogs saving soldiers.
Oh, yes, in the war. They're actually in the war? Yes, yes, yes. That's true. Very good. Has everybody heard of seizures? Do you know what a seizure is?
Oh, okay. What? You want to tell what it is?
It's when you shake uncontrollably and you can't control your actions.
Right. So some people have seizures. They discovered that there are dogs who can smell when somebody's going to have a seizure, and they warn their people. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So there are all kinds of therapy dogs. I have a friend who is in a wheelchair, and his therapy dog picks things up off the ground for him when he drops them. Pretty good, huh? Okay, so Lance is in training to be some kind of therapy dog, so he had to learn to pick things up. That makes sense? Let's go back to the story. On Wednesdays, Marshall brought Rennie with him for the Critic and Kids class. The class had 6 kids and 6 dogs in it. 4 were from Rennie's school, but only Mackenzie was in Rennie's class. Mackenzie's dog was a very small, very round French bulldog named Mortimer. Everything about Mortimer was almost the opposite of me. Mortimer's coat was so light it looked white. Mine was completely black. Mortimer's idea of a good time was sitting on Mackenzie's lap being petted and fed. All I wanted to do was run and play as much as possible. But Mortimer and I agreed about the most important thing. People. They are peculiar, for sure, Mortimer said. They are our world, n'est-ce pas? pushed-in nose, funny French accent, and habit of using French words when he couldn't think of the English made it hard to understand him sometimes. But I didn't care. Mortimer liked people, and most important, he adored Rennie. That made him A-OK in my book. You are very lucky, mon ami, he once said. That Rennie, she is the rare flower. What does mon ami mean? Does anybody know?
French, does anyone know Mon ami. Come on. Yeah. Anybody else think they know what that means?
I'm not surprised if you don't. We're going to learn a little bit of French. Mon ami means my friend. Can you say it? It's 2 words. Mon ami.
Mon ami.
Yeah. You are very lucky, mon ami, he once said. That Rennie, she is the rare flower. He has a funny French accent. Ms. Jania's class for kids was different from my other classes. We always practiced what Ms. Jania called the 3 R's. Respect, repetition, and rewards. Each class began with a question. Who can tell me one of the 3 R's? All 6 hands would wave, and Ms. Jania would choose one. Danny? Respect, Danny said. Very good. Who can give me an example of respect? Kimmy? Paying attention to your dog's body language, said Kimmy. That's a great example, Ms. Jania said. So what are dogs trying to show us with their body language? Feelings! Everyone shouted at once. Ms. Jania smiled. The dogs barked and the questions continued. As Mortimer liked to say, these kids, they are very smart. After the 3 R's, we worked on sit, stay, heel, and come. I knew these commands by heart now, but some of the kids and dogs still had trouble. Remember the 2nd R, Ms. Jania said. Repeat, repeat, repeat. But the best part of Critic and Kids class was making stuff. Ms. Jania gave every kid a little notebook to draw and write ideas in. Whenever the kids thought of things they could make or do that would help animals, they wrote them down and shared them with Ms. Jania. Rennie and Mackenzie carried their notebooks everywhere, and they were always coming up with good ideas. I had some good ideas of my own, but I had a hard time communicating them to Rennie. One day, while Rennie and Mackenzie were sitting on the floor drawing, I had an idea. First, I whined and touched Rennie with my paw. Stop it, Lance, she said. I'm drawing. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
I know, I barked, but I have an idea. Next, I nudged her hand with my nose. Lance, remember respect, she said, sounding annoyed. You messed up my picture. Not good, not good, not good.
Not good, not good, not good.
I sighed. After giving it some thought, I decided to try one more time. After all, Ms. Jania always says to remember the 2nd R. Repeat. This time, I took my paw, reached across Rennie's arm, and put it right in the middle of her paper. The pads of my paw were stained green from playing in the freshly cut grass, so I left a big green paw print on Rennie's paper. Wow, look at that, said Mackenzie. It's dog art. Let me see, said Paul, coming over to take a look. Me too, said Danny. Pretty soon, everyone was gathered around Rennie's paper looking at my paw print. Lance was showing you his idea, Ms. Jania suggested. What would you guys think about letting all the dogs use their paws to paint? Cool, said Brendan. We could use different colors. Maybe more than one dog could walk on each paper, Mackenzie suggested. Later, Ms. Jania pulled Rennie aside. I know you were really annoyed at Lance for putting his paw on your paper, she said. How are you feeling now? I think he needs a reward for using the 2nd R, Rennie laughed. He never gave up. I like the idea of the 3rd R. I just hope my reward was chief. So Lance is becoming an artist. What do you think? Great, huh? Okay, anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Yes?
Did you make this story all by yourself or did you have help?
I did write this story all by myself, although, you know, I volunteer at the SPCA, and so I know a lot of dogs like Lance. They have a lot of energy and just want to play, and so I was inspired by the dogs.
You have another question?
Yeah, who's that girl right there?
Who is the person on screen?
They want to know who else joined our chat.
That is Karen. She's part of our Critterkin team. Karen, are you there?
Yeah, she. Let me put her mic on, and she can wave.
Yeah, she should wave.
Yeah.
She helps us get the word out about Critterkin and the books. So, do you guys know what's happening later today?
Yeah.
What's happening?
The ARL's coming.
Yeah, what does ARL stand for? There's Karen. Wave.
Hi.
Karen.
See you again.
They'll be back again, don't worry. So the ARL is coming. What does ARL stand for?
Who knows what those letters?
Jackson.
Yes, Animal Rescue League. And two people are coming. One is a humane educator, and the other is a behavior specialist. So you guys, could you get out a piece of paper and a pencil, because I want to take some notes. Because the ARL will be talking to us. It's really great. We're going to learn a lot. But it's also important for us to put on our reporter hats so that we can write an article about it.
Okay, show me when you're ready. You got your paper and your pencil, and everything in front of you is quiet.
Okay, so what is the difference? Who can tell me? What's the difference between just listening to a presentation and being a reporter? What does a reporter need to do?
A reporter can ask questions and what to think about stuff, and when you're listening to one, they're gonna ask you questions and what you think about stuff.
Good. What kind of information does a reporter want?
Like about what about animals and stuff, like what they're doing. Like ask what they're doing.
The reporter wants to know information about what they're doing with the animals.
Right. In this case, they want to know about what they're doing with the animals. But we want, the word I'm looking for is facts. Okay? So our job as a reporter is to take the information we get from these two people and share it as a story with our readers. So we need to get as much information and facts as we can from these two people. So let's talk about the first person. She is a humane educator. What do you think a humane educator is?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. You should
I
probably
don't.
talk about humane. What does humane mean?
What does humane mean? Start with that first.
Probably a new word.
Humane. Oh, Bob, what do you think? Human? Human?
Very close. It has to do with being human, but it's a way of being human. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with kind.
Has to do with kindness. Any idea? Human?
It's like a person who
So, a person who helps other people and is kind to people?
Yes, very good. Yes, someone who is humane is kind and caring, compassionate, and helps others. So if this person, her name is Cicely, is that it? Cicely, if she's coming, she's going to talk about how to be a humane person to animals. What do you think that means?
She cares about them.
Say it louder.
She cares about them.
She cares about animals, and she wants other people to know that, right? So an educator does what?
What does an educator do? Often, you know?
Mrs. Howlett's an educator, Miss Campbell's an educator, Miss
You're
Jania's an
You're an
educator.
educator. What do we do to you? What do we do?
What do educators
Bailey was an
do?
educator.
To like teach you about certain things.
There you go. So a humane educator is somebody who teaches other people how to be nice to animals, how to be kind. So what kind of facts are we going to try and get from her? What kind of information do we want to know?
Okay, what are we going to want to know from this person today? What are some facts that we want to find out? Austin? How to be kind to dogs?
Right. So she is probably a really good person to tell us what we can do to be kind to dogs and how to help other people. What?
That's
Huh?
how to help other people also finish that sentence.
So you could learn from her. You can learn how to be kind to a dog, but you can also learn how to teach other people to be kind. Does that make sense? Because then you become like a role model. You can show other people. You can teach other people. You can become an educator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you are a reporter, you need to go into a situation with some questions. So what are the kind of things you want to ask her? Let's write down 4 or 5 questions we can ask her.
Okay, who has a good question that we could ask her, specific question that we could ask her this afternoon? Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
How long have you been working?
Very good. How long have you been working as a humane educator? Really good. What's another one?
What is your favorite part about working at the family?
What's your favorite part?
That's
I'm not
another.
sure I heard. Is that right?
What's your favorite animal?
Good. Yeah.
Wow, these are great questions.
They are pretty questions.
What animals are there?
So what animals are at the animal rescue league?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. What kind of animals are there? Maybe they don't have a giraffe. Other questions?
Do you think we need to ask about how they care for the animals? Like, what do they need in order to take care of these animals well? What do they need to provide these animals?
You know, can I have a question? Can I add a question? I'm very curious about how do you become a humane educator? Like, do you need special training, like a doctor or a nurse or a policeman?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we know one way she teaches about how to be a humane person, but what are some other ways she might teach?
Are you asking them, or you want that to be a question?
I think I want it to be a question. So what are some ways, like I'm curious, does she go to schools all the time? Does she have classes at the ARL? Does she teach one-on-one? Right? So that's 7 questions. Does anybody else have any other good ideas? Monty?
No, I think that's great. I
Okay.
think they're ready to go.
Yeah, but we have one more person.
Oh, right. I see.
Okay, so we have a second person coming in. I don't know his or her name yet, but that person is a behaviorist, a behavioral specialist. What do you think that means? A behavior specialist. What's that?
Where did we get it?
Is it where they train wild animals?
Because at the ARL, what kind of animals might they help train?
Cats, dogs.
Okay, so maybe you're thinking maybe it's part of the training of the animals.
Could be training. What kind of behavior might need changing? We saw it in Lance's story. What kind of behavior might need help?
What kind of behavior?
What would dogs do if they don't get training?
Maybe dogs, like, they run around and they dig holes, and then, like, in the story, when Lance buried Rennie's shoes, maybe they can have not, like, dig in the backyard and dig holes.
Yeah, so digging's one of the things dogs need help with. So digging, what else?
Not to be so hyper at it.
Yep, hyper's really a big one. Anybody have a dog that they take for a walk that pulls all the time?
Oh my God.
The arm is going to fall off. What else?
Say it really loud so she can hear you.
It's just that my dog's moving.
Pulling on a leash all the time.
Pulling. Oh, that's a real behavior.
Remember
What else?
if you're talking to your neighbor, it's really hard to hear. Let's keep our clipboards very quiet. Don't shake the clipboards. Keep them very quiet so we can listen to the questions and the answers.
So we've got digging, hyperactivity, pulling. What else might a dog do that needs behavior help?
Alyssa?
Biting.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Loud.
Biting.
Oh, yes. You know, some dogs that have lived in unhappy homes have problems with biting or they guard their food. What else about meeting other people and other dogs? What do we call that?
Antoine?
Laziness.
Laziness?
Laziness? Okay. You can ask her about that. I think that's a good question to ask her. So what kind of questions do we want to ask a behavior specialist? What can we ask her? Let's write down a few questions.
Okay. What are some questions we can ask? Do you have a question?
If they do some of the dogs like peeing on the furniture and stuff that they have?
That's a good question. That's really good. So what do we want to ask her about what is possible and not possible? Can do or not do? Can we what?
Can we teach a dog not to bite?
Yes. That's a good question. Can you teach a dog not to bite? We'll ask her. What else?
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Do they teach their animals how to do tricks?
Ooh, that's a good one. Can you teach dogs how to do tricks? I wonder if that's a good if teaching dogs how to do tricks is a good thing for the dog or not. I don't know.
What kind of breed do dogs
You know, that might be a good question for the humane educator. Right? What breeds do they have?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Along the line of training the animals. You know, when you get taught something and you want to learn something, do you sometimes need something to keep you going? What question do you think we could ask the behavior specialist about what they do when they train the dogs?
Good question.
Aubrey?
You have some sort of room to put them in.
Okay, a room or a space.
Right?
Yeah, do they have treats or do they have rewards to help keep?
Rewards. Anybody else?
Hunter?
train them?
What?
Do they train them?
Do they clicker train them?
Oh, that's a good one. What's a clicker? Does everybody know what a clicker is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, you a rat still there?
Can I add a question? Because I think it's kind of important. What kind of dog is Lance?
Pit bull. A pit bull, they're saying.
Lance is a pit bull. And do pit bulls have a good reputation?
No.
So maybe we could ask her about that. Could we ask her if it's easy to train pit bulls? We could ask her if, so let's maybe put that down. Is it easy to train pit bulls?
No.
Well, we don't know. Let's ask. And I'd kind of like to know, maybe she knows why do pit bulls have a bad reputation. So that's 8 questions. Is that enough? I think so. So what do you think, Ms. Hallett? Are we good to go for this afternoon?
And you guys remember, some of these might tell us during their presentation, they might answer one of our questions, and then we still might have some questions that we are going to ask
Later, yeah.
Yeah. So
I do have one question. Do we have a photographer assigned? Because somebody should take pictures for the newspaper.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Great.
All right, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
Any more questions about being a reporter before I sign off?
Any other questions you guys have? Are we excited for this afternoon?
I am too. I can hardly wait to meet them.
Did you have another question?
Do the reporters like write down what they ask and what the people answer with?
Okay, good
Yes.
question. Maybe we need some clarification between what the reporter does and what the interviewer does. Who's asking the questions? Who's writing? Are they doing both?
Usually, now when I do a story, I take a note. You should always have a notebook with you if you're a reporter. You have a notebook and a pencil, and I have my questions written down like we just did, and then I ask the questions and I write the answers. But I also take a little recorder because sometimes the person speaks too quickly or they say things I didn't expect them to say. So today when we meet with these people, we'll record it for you so you could listen to it afterwards, okay? But you should always write down, take notes to the answers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what about the interviewer?
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
We're wondering.
We have reporters and we have interviewers. We're trying to figure out what
Oh, I'm sorry. That, I think that was my mistake. I didn't explain very well. There are really two kinds of stories. There's the reported story that's all about facts, and then there's the interview with somebody to write their story. We call it a profile. So, for example, if you interview me, it would be a profile story, my story. The other story we're doing today is a fact story. So I'm really sorry if I confused you. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So an interviewer is more one-on-one
Yes.
with one other person, and a reporter is more large event reporting on something that is happening.
Yeah, like an event. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Good clarification.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Okay. All right.
We'll see you at 2 o'clock.
We'll see you this afternoon. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.